Hello everyone! I am here today to talk to you about why astrology is real. I am here in sunny Georgia. We have some sun after a week, so I'm pretty happy about that. And this is my first YouTube video, so I'm happy about that too. Let's go ahead and get started, because I don't want to take anyone's time. Why is astrology real? So, science may not be caught up to the fact yet. We don't have an answer for the theories in quantum physics that we want to know, but there is actually psychological evidence proving astrology. The first is a study conducted by Arthur Lieber in Miami-Dade County with the University of Miami. He's a psychologist. He did it with his colleagues, and the idea was to test this backdated idea, I guess, of full moon lunacy, which I'm telling you now that they actually discovered it was not dated, and it's true. So what they did was the researchers collected data over the course of 15 years on homicide in Dade County. It was 1,887 murders, and they matched the incidence of homicide with the phases of the moon. They found, much to their surprise, that the two rose and fell together, almost infallibly, the entire 15 years. As the full or new moon approached, the murder rate rose sharply. It distinctly declined during the first and last quarters of the moon. And then to find out if this was like a statistical fluke that happened for 15 years, the researchers repeated the experiment using murder data from Cuyahoga County in Ohio, Cleveland, and again the statistics showed that more murders indeed do occur during full and new moons. Another test that was done was by Dr. Miki Takada. He studied sunspot emissions and how they influence human blood serum levels. So there was a there was a sunspot peak in the 1930s, and Dr. Miki Takada found that human blood serum was affected by the solar radiation put out by sunspots. During the same period, it was discovered that sunspot emissions affected a wide variety of other things, such as the size of tree rings and the amount of radio interference on certain bandwidths. During World War II, the potential communications blackout that sunspots and solar storms might cause was of great concern to the armed forces. So a radio engineer at RCA named John Nelson was asked to come up with a method of predicting when the storms would occur. Nelson figured that the only major variables that might conceivably affect the sun's turbulent surface were the planets surrounding. He devised a system of charting their relationships to the sun and to one another, and found that when certain angular relationships between planets occurred, sunspots and solar magnetic storms broke out. To date, his system of prediction has been 95% accurate, and the hypothesis that the planets cause solar tides was proved by Professor K.D. Wood at the University of Colorado. More recently, many scientists have been suggesting that the sunspot cycle is critical in the formation of our weather patterns. Indeed, during a 70-year period in the 17th and 18th centuries, when the cycle was interrupted and sunspots stopped for no apparent reason, Europe was plunged into its coldest period on record, named the Little Ice Age. Astronomer John R. Gribben and astrophysicist Stephen H. Plageman even speculated that sunspot and planetary cycles are linked to earthquakes, and a future unusual planetary alignment may trigger a devastating California quake. The more the subject is investigated, the more important these cycles appear. Okay, so that's interesting. I didn't know about all the weather predictions for Earth based on the sun cycle emissions as well.
Hey! Sorry, I had to change up the setting real quick. I couldn't finish that whole video at the same time. So the last person, the last study I want to tell you about is called the Mars effect. It was conducted by a French psychologist and statistician. His name is Michel Guaquelin. I will add that at the bottom, his info as well. But he conducted the study in the 1960s
that set out to disprove astrology. He just believed it wasn't true. He wanted to prove it. So what he did was, to disprove it, he analyzed planetary positions at the births of professionals using large samples as like of 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 people. And what he found was that actually there were planets associated with athletes' achievements. So Mars fell at random points in the natives of 10,000 or 15,000 athletes.
So he was trying to disprove astrology and ended up discovering that so many athletes were affected by the planet Mars and its energy, and had that in their natal birth charts.
And then to emphasize this, he actually studied doctors, lawyers, writers, and other jobs associated with specific planets as well. So to his surprise, he did find that Mars had a prominent place in a vast number of athletes, and similarly, Jupiter appeared in the charts of many bankers, Saturn for doctors, Mercury for writers. He saw that he actually ended up proving it when he was trying to debunk it. During that time, it was kind of sad. There is this is not in the article. I'm going to add this to the bottom of the video, but there was a group of Belgian scientists that basically they took 8 years to release his findings on the study that he created. He was just given a lot of hard time to release his data. There was a lot of controversy because of the 8 years that were created before he was allowed to publish his work.
Unfortunately, he committed suicide at the age of 62 when he passed away. It's really sad and unfortunate.
So astrology is where all the planets and celestial objects were placed when you were born. It is continuing to track where all the celestial objects and planets are in relation to the energy that you have and you hold. I personally believe that when you were born, it's based on the date, time, and place of where you're born, and when you're born, you hold the energy of what was going on in the universe, the celestial objects, the planets, what was going on in the sky. There is energy from the material of all these planets that you gain and you have locked within yourself. That energy is what is constantly interacting with what is going on in the sky and the universe. Discover your own natal chart. See your natal chart, Google your placements, YouTube your placements, figure out what that means for you. And it has actually been psychologically proven. The information is just not out there, it's not being pushed, but if you want to understand who you are, your full self, study your natal chart. Understand where the planets were placed when you were born, where all the celestial objects were when you were born. So that way, you can understand your day-to-day life if you don't understand where certain feelings or emotions are coming from, or you want to work on something within yourself. It would be extremely helpful. If you don't know exactly what your life path is, you're lost, anything really, like understanding your chart will help you understand yourself. It is all the materials that create you. We don't have the technology, or may have the technology. Maybe we can use those things to study our biomagnetism, and maybe like magnetism for the rocks that we'll be collecting from Mars, or have, but will be coming to Earth. We're still at that space where we're still gathering material from planets and like still studying our own energy. So to make the approach as to study how they interact and like which technologies to use to do that, science hasn't done that. So that doesn't mean that you shouldn't believe it's real or true, just because it was debunked into a pseudoscience because the technology doesn't exist to prove it. I mean, we still don't know so much about quantum mechanics. We're still learning so much about it. I do have a name for the energy that we have locked inside ourselves at the time of birth, date, and place. I call it our glue force. So we have the glue force of energy, the material that makes us who we are, what we are, from the celestial objects and planets that were in the sky. And yes, we don't have empirical proof of it, but we have psychological proof of it. It's like depression. You can't see depression, but you know it's happening to you, right? Or like any other psychological condition that takes place or is occurring to you. You know this stuff is happening to you. I can't be like, oh, here's my depression. There it is. Can't do that. But you know it's there. You can work with it still, even though it's not physically seen by the eye. Learning about your natal chart can also help you find your life purpose, how to step into your highest self, really tap into taking advantage of all your abilities, identifying what you have in your chart that may cause you to do certain things. So just being completely aware of what energies are tools for you,
and which ones are there as opportunities for higher learning to learn and grow from.
I really hope y'all like this video. I'm going to be making videos on different placements of the chart, so like what your rising sign is, what your moon sign is, what your sun sign is, what each of them are with different zodiac signs in them, meaning how each placement is with the influence of different planets. And okay, that's what I have for you. I hope everyone has a great day. Lots of love and light. See you later. Bye. So yeah, subscribe to me. Look out for it. That's what I'm saying. Thank you.